What defines whether or not a game feels good to me has a lot to do with how much I can circumvent the limitations of that game. I know you people only care about Tekken, so it's at the start. Backdashing. If you press back twice, you do a quick backward movement. And after this animation is finished, you can do another one. But what if I told you? You can cancel your backdash into another backdash. What was once an exploit in this series has defined it for years to come. Furthermore, this is Baby's first steps into complex inputs, so learning it is the first step towards wave dashing and taunt cancelling and sway cancels. The initial half of a backward dash is very fast, but the character slows down to readjust to their resting idle animation. What we want is the benefits of backwards movement without the drawbacks of having to play the full animation. I think most people who struggle with backdash cancelling are too busy trying to learn the inputs like a script and not understanding theory. What you're trying to do is crouch to interrupt the backdash animation, and then pressing back again will start you moving backward again. As a side note, Akuma importing his animations from Street Fighter always messes with me. His down 3 can be blocked for plus 13 frames, meaning you have a nice punishment, unless he does his down 3 into Hadouken animation cancel, in which case you're going to eat it. In essence, this gives him an evasive low that's unlikely to get punished on its own, and he can mix it up with an actual launcher if he has meter. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about Tekken now.
Brian Kane.
I'm gonna start talking about attack follow-through in Zone of the Enders 2. You have to allow Gitai to return to neutral position after a full force/combo, and during this wait, you're very vulnerable. During the first 3 slashes, however, you can block, which has priority over the rest of those animations. This means that blocking interrupts your combo. This is great defensively, and you can instantly block an enemy attack as long as you don't commit too hard to your attack combo. But this also means that you can cancel your attack follow-through. You can even cancel an attack before it connects. The same can be said of grab attacks. If you grab an enemy and wind up your throw, you're going to be trapped reeling from that spinning animation for a decent second or two, all time where you could be getting surrounded. However, if you only tap the throw button, Gitai will be able to instantly dash out and chase the thrown enemy. In this way, the number of options available to the player increases based on their knowledge of the circumventable limitations within the combat system. And believe it or not, this kind of consideration is even in Zoe's sister series, Metal Gear Solid. Even in the instruction manual, there's a notation on what's called active reload. If you allow Snake to empty a magazine, he'll perform a slow reload animation, but unequipping and re-equipping the weapon will refill your ammo count anyway. The addition, or rather the acceptance of this technique by the development team, allows for you to keep a more active consideration of your resources and bypass vulnerable time-consuming animations. In Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, this technique is used to bypass the animation cycle of cocking your tranquilizer pistol, or reloading an RPG. Slightly lesser known in Metal Gear Solid 1 is the ability to cancel throwing animations. You can toss an enemy and then cancel your part in that animation, allowing them to topple over while you do more important things like running for your life. And pressing X at any time during the punch-punch-kick combo will cancel the animation. This technique is effectively useless and nobody will notice you doing it. Metal Gear Solid 4 might have the most uselessly brilliant animation cancelling techniques I've seen in a single-player game. Watch as I thrust myself upon this man until he bursts out in fury and anguish. Castlevania Symphony of the Night's block cancelling is pretty much what makes that game so beloved to me. I struggle to enjoy a game if there's not something stupid I can do to speed myself up. I don't care how stupid I look. Fortunately, this looks sick. There's a defensive backdash in the game, which Alucard will skid backwards stylishly. You can cancel this animation with pretty much anything else, but only the shield will cancel it without committing to an uncancelable animation itself. You can shield out of a backdash, and backdash out of your shield. Do you understand how powerful this is? Do you understand how much fun it is to be moving backwards for 99% of the game? You play as a vampire that moonwalks everywhere. How poetic is that? It's lunacy. Even better is when you get the bat transformation. If you cancel your backdash with that, you inherit the backwards momentum without adhering to gravity, so you can clear relatively small gaps in ways you'd have to double jump or some other pansy shit to get past. When you start feeling the movement in Symphony of the Night, the game starts to look really beautifully strange. The next game on this list is夏色ハイスクル青春白書 転校初日の俺が幼馴染と再会したら報道部員にされていて激写少年の日々はスクープ。大連発で意外とモテモテなのになぜかマイメモリーはパンツ写真ばかりという現実。と向かいながら考えるひと夏の島の学園生活と赤裸々な恋の行方。Specifically, I want to talk about the PlayStation 3 version on disc. I want to show you the true power of animation cancelling. This is an open-world stealth photography game where the encouraged use of the camera is to sneak up on girls and take pictures. That's the sell. It's not built upon at all. No, instead it's a scripted dating sim with escort mechanics and a keyword system like Final Fantasy II for completing quests. And taking photographs is kind of encouraged or used for those quests. I don't feel I've ever played a less ambitious game. That said, the movement options are pretty amazing. There's a crouch, crawl, and you can even lie on your back. Square is a kind of dash, and aiming your camera will enable a bullet time mode as you skid. Same as jumping with the X button. The game's not meant to be very input intensive, but it has a surprising detail to how you're allowed to move and get the perfect shots. But get this, we can animation cancel the dash with the X button. Your player character will immediately get up and prepare to jump, but this is a neutral stance where you can once again skid out of this jump priming animation. We can string these commands together, meaning we have a Symphony of the Night type of speed exploitation. Using this, we can start to expose the delicacy with which this game has been put together. Though the game has an install on PS3, NPCs take quite a bit of time to load in, which has been masked by the player's slow movement speed, which is bizarre. The game isn't even 2 gigabytes large, and it has abysmal loading times. Absolutely abysmal. And then it further slows you down in order to load other things in. We can outrun the game. We can outrun both of the discs, and peek behind this illusion. This is a world that builds itself around you despite trying to keep the illusion of existing without the player by making these NPCs disinterested in you, giving them affinity meters, giving them individual names. By going beyond the constraints placed on us by the developer, we can see how fickle the reality within this game is. Not unlike being a panty photographer, really. Honestly, this just makes this game a pacifist's first-person shooter with a different context. When I was young, I was told you should only aim at something you're prepared to kill, which is a grim statement, but I assume it's the kind of emotional reasoning why some people have distaste for shooters. Taking another human's virtual life is a bit too much for some people, which I understand. They say that killing someone kills something within yourself too. So if you really get into games, I can understand how disturbing the callous violence can seem if you're the perpetrator. It might seem silly to me when I understand that the NPC has no soul or personal intent. There's no home for them to go back to. They exist to fall. And the camera is not so innocent. Photography itself shares linguistics with its sister creation, the gun. They co-evolved. The first dry plate cameras were said to have been internally modelled after Colt machine guns. The first examples of truly portable film used the chemistry of gun cotton to create a negative. You'd load a cartridge of this into the chamber, aim down your sights, and you shoot. This is the language of photography. Some cultures believe photographs would steal your soul. There's some sentimental truth to this, isn't there? Depending on what you're taking a picture of, there are fatal consequences. Most people who appear in photographs steal themselves to put on a public face. There isn't an ounce of honesty in a selfie or a group photo. People want to present a version of themselves that eternity can look back upon and have a positive idea of. But if you take a candid photograph, aren't you stealing something? If someone steals a picture of you when you're happily chatting with your loved ones, don't you feel stolen from? Like a private piece of you which you only share with them has been invaded. It's stolen intimacy. In some ways, the artful panty shot is within the same realm as this, though more serious. The cloth of underwear is a symbol of a girl's chastity. It's an emotional barrier as much as a physical one. And yet an unconsented photograph of that both preserves that barrier for posterity and eternity, and absolutely destroys that barrier's meaning at the same time. You've stolen something. And yet, in that act, you've also lost a part of yourself. This is the true difference between American and Japanese culture. In Japan, school shootings are performed through a viewfinder. Thank you. I've been Gitai, and remember, if you cancel me, you will only be resetting me back to neutral.